William Hung skyrocketed to unlikely fame in 2004 when his rendition of Ricky Martin's She Bangs won over the hearts of the American Idol audience.
At 42, William Hung finds himself in a quieter place than the spotlight that once blinded him. Far removed from the stages and cameras that once documented his every move, the man who captured America's heart with his enthusiastic if off-key performance now lives a life that few of his one-time fans would recognize. The transition from viral sensation to everyday anonymity hasn't been without its costs. By most accounts, the journey from celebrated novelty act to a life beyond the punchline has been fraught with emotional turbulence, financial uncertainty, and the struggle to reclaim an identity separate from those 3 minutes on American Idol. What happens when the world decides who you are before you've had the chance to figure it out yourself? When millions of people know your name, but few truly know your story? The tale begins far from the American Idol stage in Hong Kong, where William was born in 1983. The small apartment he shared with his family was filled with the sounds of his father's engineering textbooks being flipped through late into the night and his mother's gentle encouragements about the importance of education. When William was 10 years old, his family immigrated to the United States, settling in the Los Angeles suburb of Van Nuys, California, a place where palm trees lined streets that promised opportunity but often delivered only struggle for immigrant families. The Hung household valued academic achievement above all else. Their modest apartment became a sanctuary of learning, with William's desk positioned near the only window, allowing California sunshine to spill across his mathematics homework. His parents, themselves educated professionals in Hong Kong, found their credentials meant little in America, forcing them to take lower-paying jobs while emphasizing to William that education was the only reliable path forward. School wasn't easy for the young immigrant. His heavy accent became a target for classmates' mockery, and the cultural differences between his home life and American school culture created a chasm he struggled to bridge. Music became his escape, though not in the traditional sense. While he lacked formal training, William found joy in singing along to pop songs playing on the radio, memorizing lyrics phonetically before fully understanding their meaning. His bedroom mirror became his first audience, witnessing passionate performances that no one else was meant to see. His high school years at John H. Francis Polytechnic High School revealed a young man determined to excel academically despite social isolation. Math and science became his refuge, quantifiable, logical subjects where his accent and cultural differences mattered less than his problem-solving abilities. Teachers noted his diligence, his hand always raised, his homework always complete. Yet yearbook photos show a young man standing slightly apart from his peers, smiling politely, but never quite belonging. By the time he enrolled at UC Berkeley as a civil engineering student, William had developed a resilience that would later serve him well under the harsh glare of public attention. The quiet, studious young man who walked the Berkeley campus, textbooks clutched to his chest, gave little indication of the cultural phenomenon he would soon become. The dorm room where he first practiced She Bangs, his roommates offering bemused encouragement, would later seem like the last private moment before the storm of celebrity transformed everything. The path to American Idol wasn't one William had meticulously planned. There were no years of vocal training, no childhood spent performing in church choirs or school musicals. Instead, there were karaoke nights in Berkeley dormitories, where William's enthusiasm for Ricky Martin's hit song earned cheers from fellow students, not for technical proficiency, but for the unbridled joy he brought to each performance. These were the invisible years, when William was just another engineering student with an unusual hobby, his name unknown to anyone outside his immediate circle. According to classmates, William's decision to audition for American Idol came almost on a whim, born more from a desire to step outside his comfort zone than any realistic expectation of advancing in the competition. The long line of hopefuls outside the San Francisco audition venue included trained vocalists who had spent years perfecting their craft, professional musicians looking for their big break, and then there was William, an engineering student with no formal musical training, but an unwavering belief in himself. The rejection from his first local singing competition had barely registered. The campus talent show where he was politely asked to leave the stage after 30 seconds was a distant memory. Each no seemed to fuel rather than diminish his enthusiasm. Where others might have seen humiliation, William apparently saw only opportunities to improve. This resilience, this almost supernatural ability to withstand rejection, would later become his most recognizable trait and perhaps ultimately his greatest burden. When William Hung walked into that American Idol audition room in January 2004, he was invisible in a world obsessed with spotlights. His ill-fitting suit, his carefully rehearsed introduction, "I want to make music my living," and his earnest demeanor gave no indication that television history was about to be made. The judge's expressions as he began his performance of She Bangs would become some of the most replayed moments in reality television. Randy Jackson's poorly concealed laughter, Paula Abdul's sympathetic discomfort, and Simon Cowell's trademark disdain. But it was Williams' response to rejection that changed everything. The 3 minutes that transformed William Hung from anonymous engineering student to cultural phenomenon unfolded with an almost mythic simplicity. His performance itself, enthusiastic, off-key, accompanied by dance moves that bore little resemblance to Ricky Martin's choreography, might have been just another forgettable audition clip used to fill space between more promising contestants. But when Simon Cowell abruptly stopped him and delivered his characteristically brutal assessment, something unexpected happened. Instead of reacting with anger or embarrassment, William responded with a phrase that would become his unintentional trademark. "I have no professional training of singing." The sincerity in his voice, the slight bow of his head, and then the radiant smile as he added, "I already gave my best, and I have no regrets at all," struck a chord with viewers that transcended the usual American Idol narrative of talent discovered or dreams shattered. And that's when everything changed. Within days of the broadcast, William Hung became a viral sensation before the term viral had fully entered the cultural lexicon. This was 2004, before YouTube, before social media as we know it today. Yet Williams' audition spread through early internet forums, email chains, and repeated airings on news and entertainment programs. What made his sudden fame so remarkable was its organic nature. This wasn't a calculated publicity stunt or a carefully crafted persona. It was a genuine moment of human authenticity that resonated across demographic lines. The offers came flooding in. Talk show appearances, a recording contract with Coke Entertainment worth $25,000, a music video, 3 albums released in a single year, a fan club with thousands of members, William Hung merchandise, paid appearances at sporting events to perform his signature song. For an engineering student who had never harbored serious professional music ambitions, the transformation was dizzying in its speed and scope. William Hung's peak era represented something peculiar and powerful in American pop culture. His debut album, Inspiration, sold nearly 200,000 copies and reached number 34 on the Billboard 200 chart, a remarkable achievement for any artist, let alone one with no professional training of singing. His music video for She Bangs aired on major music channels. He appeared on The Tonight Show, Ellen, Jimmy Kimmel Live, and countless other programs. College campuses across the country invited him to perform, with students lining up for hours to take photos with the unlikely star. What made Williams' fame so fascinating was the purity of his approach to it. While many reality TV personalities quickly learned to leverage controversy or adopt more calculated public personas, William maintained the same earnest enthusiasm that had first endeared him to viewers. He thanked every interviewer profusely for the opportunity. He signed every autograph with genuine appreciation. He repeated his mantra of never giving up with such consistency that it never felt rehearsed, only deeply believed. His work ethic during this period was astonishing. According to those who worked with him, William approached his sudden music career with the same diligence he had applied to his engineering studies. He practiced his performances relentlessly, worked to improve his singing, despite the fact that his technical shortcomings were precisely what had made him famous, and honored every commitment with punctuality and professionalism. This wasn't a young man exploiting a joke for quick profit. This was someone embracing an unexpected opportunity with gratitude and determination. Yet, As William smiled for cameras and performed his limited repertoire to cheering crowds, a more complicated reality was unfolding away from the spotlight. The toll of sudden fame, particularly fame built on being perceived as a novelty act, carried costs that wouldn't become fully apparent until years later. The recording studio sessions for his albums reportedly revealed moments of painful self-awareness. According to producers who worked with him, there were instances when William would ask, after multiple takes of a song, if his voice was improving, genuine questions met with uncomfortable reassurances. The concerts where audience members showed up not to appreciate musical talent, but to participate in what some critics described as a form of mockery cloaked in ironic appreciation. The growing realization that the very quality that had made him famous, his lack of conventional singing ability, was also the thing that would prevent his career from evolving beyond novelty. Behind the scenes, William faced financial challenges despite his apparent success. The nature of his quick-burning fame meant that while he generated significant revenue for networks, venues, and even his record label, his personal earnings were reportedly modest and rapidly diminished as public interest waned. The decision to put his engineering studies on hold, a field that would have provided stable, long-term income, represented a gamble on a music career that industry insiders knew had a limited shelf life. There were personal losses too. The intense schedule of appearances left little time for meaningful relationships. Former friends from his pre-fame life reportedly drifted away, uncomfortable with his new public persona or unwilling to navigate the changed dynamic. Family relationships became strained as his parents, who had emphasized traditional education and career stability, struggled to understand his choice to pursue entertainment, according to those close to the situation. Perhaps most significantly, there was the gradual psychological impact of becoming famous not for exceptional talent, but for its perceived absence. While William maintained his positive public persona, those who worked closely with him during this period have suggested that he wasn't oblivious to the complex nature of his celebrity. There were reportedly quiet moments backstage when the smile faded and a more contemplative expression took its place. Brief glimpses of a young man coming to terms with being both celebrated and ridiculed simultaneously. By 2005, just a year after his American Idol audition, the intensity of William Hung mania had already begun to diminish. Television appearances became less frequent. Concert venues grew smaller. The third album, Miracle Happy Summer from William Hung, sold a fraction of what his debut had achieved. The inevitable arc of novelty fame was following its predictable trajectory toward obscurity. But here's where it gets complicated. William Hung's story isn't simply about the rise and fall of an unlikely celebrity. It's about the intersection of American dream mythology, immigrant experiences, and a culture that simultaneously celebrates and exploits authenticity. The narrative becomes more nuanced when we consider what William himself has said about his experience in the rare interviews he's given in the years since his fame subsided. By most accounts, William has expressed gratitude rather than resentment for his brief time in the spotlight. He has described the experience as an unexpected adventure that allowed him to see parts of the country and meet people he otherwise never would have encountered. This perspective challenges the simplistic tragic exploitation narrative that some cultural critics have applied to his story. It suggests an agency and self-awareness that complicates how we understand his experience. At the same time, transitioning back to relative anonymity after such intense public attention presented challenges that few people can truly understand. The abrupt shift from being recognized everywhere to being just another person on the street requires psychological adjustments that aren't easily navigated. According to those who remained in contact with William during this transition period, there were difficult moments of reckoning with a future very different from the one he had briefly glimpsed. The question of whether William was in on the joke has been debated extensively by cultural commentators. Was he a naive victim of cultural mockery, or a savvy performer who understood exactly what he was doing? The truth, as with most complex human stories, likely lies somewhere in between these extremes. A young man who began with genuine musical enthusiasm, recognized the nature of his appeal, and made the most of an opportunity while it lasted. Now, if you're wondering what happened to William Hung after the cameras stopped rolling and the microphones were turned off, the answer involves several unexpected turns. After his music career faded, William returned to his education, eventually completing his degree in civil engineering from California State University, Northridge. The same discipline and work ethic that had characterized his approach to his brief entertainment career served him well as he reclaimed his original academic path. In perhaps the most surprising career pivot, William reportedly became a technical crime analyst for the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department in 2011. The mathematics skills that had once made him a promising engineering student found application in statistical analysis of crime data, work that required precision, attention to detail, and comfort with staying out of the spotlight. This chapter of his life represented a remarkable shift from performing in front of thousands to working quietly with data and statistics. But the pull of public life remained. Around 2015, William made another unexpected career change, emerging as a professional poker player. The analytical mind that had served him well in engineering and crime analysis found new application at the poker table, where probability calculations and reading opponents replaced musical performances as his public-facing skill. He reportedly competed in various tournaments, finding a new community that appreciated his strategic thinking rather than his singing voice. Through these transitions, one constant has remained: William's apparent ability to find joy and purpose in whatever path he chooses. The resilience that allowed him to smile through Simon Cowell's criticism has manifested as an adaptability that's carried him through multiple career incarnations. Rather than being defined by his brief fame, he has continued to redefine himself on his own terms. Public records and occasional interviews suggest that William has built a life that balances privacy with selective public appearances. He has reportedly participated in charity events, occasionally embracing his American Idol legacy when it serves a good cause. These glimpses into his current life reveal a man who has neither rejected his unusual past nor remained trapped by it, a delicate balance that few who experience sudden fame manage to achieve. While William has generally kept his romantic life private, those close to him have suggested that he has found personal happiness away from public scrutiny. The qualities that endeared him to viewers, his sincerity, optimism, and kindness, have reportedly served him well in building meaningful relationships. Though details remain appropriately private, the stability he has found in his personal life stands in contrast to many stories of former reality TV participants. Friends from William's post-Idol life describe a man who rarely brings up his famous past unless others mention it first. According to these sources, he has developed a healthy perspective on his unique place in pop culture history, able to acknowledge it without being defined by it. This emotional maturity represents perhaps the most significant triumph in William's story, transcending questions of musical talent or career success. The found family that emerged from William's unusual journey includes an eclectic mix of supporters. Former music industry contacts who recognized his genuine nature and stayed in touch long after professional obligations ended. Fellow poker players who know him primarily for his card-playing skills rather than his singing. Engineering colleagues who appreciate his analytical abilities. This diverse circle of connections reflects the many facets of a man who defies simple categorization. What makes William Hung's story particularly poignant is how his various communities have embraced different aspects of his multifaceted identity. Rather than remaining frozen as the American Idol contestant forever, he has been allowed to evolve and grow, something our celebrity-obsessed culture rarely permits of those it briefly elevates to fame. This acceptance represents a kind of grace that contrasts sharply with the initial reaction to his audition. Today, William Hung stands at a crossroads that few could have predicted when he first stepped onto the American Idol stage in 2004. At 42, he navigates a world vastly different from both his brief celebrity heyday and his pre-fame existence. The digital landscape has transformed how we understand fame itself, making his early viral moment seem almost quaint by today's standards, while simultaneously preserving it in perpetuity through countless YouTube views and social media shares. Recent appearances suggest a man who has made peace with his unusual place in popular culture. When he does participate in interviews or events that reference his American Idol audition, he does so with good humor and perspective that comes only with time and maturity. The awkward engineering student has been replaced by a composed adult who can look back on his younger self with compassion rather than embarrassment. Yet there remains an undeniable poignancy to William Hung's journey. His story forces us to confront uncomfortable questions about the nature of entertainment, the thin line between celebration and ridicule, and how quickly we elevate and then discard those who capture our collective attention. The heartbreaking tragedy referenced in countless articles about William isn't about personal disaster or dramatic downfall. It's about a culture that briefly rewards authenticity while simultaneously exploiting it. Those who have encountered William in recent years describe a man who defies expectations. The smile that once seemed naive now reads as knowing. The optimism that once appeared delusional now seems wisely chosen. The mantra of never give up that made him an easy target for cynics has proven remarkably effective as a life philosophy, carrying him through the disorienting experience of fame and back to solid ground. The battle William faces today isn't against public ridicule or career setbacks. By all accounts, he has built a stable, fulfilling life beyond his brief celebrity. Rather, his challenge mirrors one we all face in the digital age: how to integrate our past selves with our present identity when the internet never forgets. For William, this challenge is magnified by having his most vulnerable moment, a sincere but unsuccessful audition at age 21, permanently preserved as cultural touchstone. What does it mean to grow and evolve when millions of people still picture you exactly as you were in a single moment nearly 2 decades ago? How do you build a life that honors your past while refusing to be limited by it? The legacy of William Hung extends far beyond his brief musical career. In many ways, he was a harbinger of our current celebrity landscape, where authenticity, or its performance, often matters more than traditional talent or achievement. Before reality TV personalities leveraged their authentic selves into personal brands and social media empires, William demonstrated the powerful appeal of unfiltered genuineness in a media environment accustomed to polished performances. His impact can be measured not just in album sales or television appearances, but in how he challenged our understanding of what makes a compelling public figure. In a competition designed to discover conventional singing talent, William became more memorable than many technically proficient contestants who advanced far beyond him. His cultural footprint, still visible in references, memes, and the collective memory of a generation that watched his audition, suggests a connection with audiences that transcended musical ability. Perhaps most significantly, William Hung's story offers a surprisingly hopeful narrative about resilience and self-definition. In a culture that often reduces people to their most marketable or mockable qualities, he has demonstrated the possibility of growing beyond the narrow identity assigned to you by public perception. The engineering student became an unlikely pop culture phenomenon, who became a crime analyst, who became a poker player, each transition representing an assertion of personal agency rather than a surrender to external definition. If you've ever felt misunderstood, if you've ever pursued something with passion despite lacking natural talent, if you've ever picked yourself up after public failure, William Hung's journey speaks to you. His refusal to be embarrassed by his enthusiasm, his ability to acknowledge his limitations without being diminished by them, and his persistent forward movement regardless of obstacles offer lessons that extend far beyond singing competitions or fleeting fame. Today, as we look back on that American Idol audition and everything that followed, we can appreciate William Hung not as a punchline, but as a person of remarkable adaptability and spiritual resilience. The true measure of his success isn't found in Billboard charts or television ratings, but in the life he has built on his own terms, one that honors his past without being imprisoned by it. If his story has touched you, inspired you, or made you reconsider how we treat those who briefly capture our collective attention, leave a like and share your thoughts in the comments. Perhaps the greatest tribute we can offer William Hung is to remember him not just for how he sang, but for how he lived, with unwavering optimism, genuine gratitude, and the courage to be authentically himself in a world that too often rewards only polished perfection.